Well, hello everyone, and thank you so much for being part of today. So we're going to get started. It is so great to see everyone here. This webinar is being translated into French. That means that you can listen to the information in French or English. At the bottom of your screen is a little round globe. If you're on your phone, it might be at the top. You can click on the little globe that says interpretation. Then you can click on either French or English. Because we have a translator, we ask you make sure that talks are just one person at a time. So please keep yourself muted until it's your time to talk. We're also recording this webinar today in English so that we can share this with on our website. So if you're not comfortable about being recorded, you could just turn off your camera. Thank you so much, everyone, for that. Does anyone have any questions so far? You're good. Okay. If not, we are going to, I'm excited to get started to talk about a very important topic. But before we do get right into it, I would like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. We're meeting online and doing this webinar from different parts of Canada, but we still want to understand and recognize the importance of the land that we all call home. Thank you. So welcome to People First of Canada webinar. As I mentioned, it's so good to see everyone here. My name is Coriero, and I'm doing this webinar as someone that's worked in the past of elections as well. So I'm excited to be here. We have guests from Elections Canada. Cynthia is here to help answer any questions that you may have. Welcome, Cynthia. Do you want to give a wave so everyone know you are?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I'm Cynthia Henley. I'm a stakeholder outreach officer at Elections Canada, and I've been working on some important work with People First of Canada for a while now, because they help us share the key information about the different ways to be involved in democracy. So thanks for having me, and Corey, thanks for accepting to present on the topic.
Well, thanks so much, Cynthia, and we really do appreciate Elections Canada work on this. I also have Monica and Cameron here online to run the slides and answer any questions in that. Can you guys give a wave there? Everyone knows. If anyone has any questions as we go along, please feel free to raise your Zoom hand or say something and we'll stop to answer them, or put them in the chat. Also, please let us know if we are talking too fast or you want us to repeat something or clarify something. It's really important that we try to answer all the questions and that you can so understand as well. So we are speaking fast. Sometimes I tend to, so just stop me right away. Today, we're excited to be talking about working in the federal election. People First of Canada has been working with Elections Canada for many years. We want to help our members be confident in the federal election. We know that there is an election coming up, and we know that any day after March 9th is when the leader of the Liberal Party will be chosen, but anywhere from after March 9th, we know that there could be potential election. So stay tuned for that in the days ahead. This is one of the first election webinars that we're going to be doing this year, and we'll tell you about some more at the end of today's session. So we all know that registering and voting is extremely important part of elections. But today, we're going to talk about another important way that you could participate in Canada's democracy and get paid for it by becoming an election worker. By the end of this webinar, we hope that you'll have a better understanding of jobs available with Elections Canada during the federal election. We want you to have all the information that you need to be confident for applying as an election worker. And it's not too early to start applying for a job. for any of those jobs. And we hope that you'll feel inspired on the role of election worker yourself, or pass this information on to someone else that you may know. And at the end of today's, we're going to have a Q&A question with Cynthia as well. Let's start with a trivia question. True or false? Working as an election worker is a paid position. Is this true or false?
Moi, je dirais vrai.
True.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It is true. You get paid for Elections Canada. You're not expected to volunteer at all. So why work at elections, federal elections? First, you'll get paid to work at a federal election and attend a training session. When you work at an election, you'll have a chance to make voting more welcoming and accessible for your community. You'll get help. You'll get to help people feel comfortable and confident when they vote. You'll meet new people in the community. You'll get the work experience and learn new skills, which you can add to your resume. You'll also learn more about elections and how they work. Did you know that Elections Canada hires about 200,000 election workers during every election? That is a lot of staff. They want to have diversity in their employees. Elections Canada is looking to hire more people. One being youth, ages 16 to 29, students, bilingual, people who can provide services in both languages, Indigenous people, people with disabilities, including people labeled with an intellectual or developmental disability. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I do,
Yeah.
but I don't know if you can answer that question. So, but I will ask, like, is there any specific, like, when you apply for a job, is there specific jobs, like you have, like you can let them know that you have a intellectual disability, or you don't have
Absolutely.
to?
Yeah, a great question. And we're going to get into the jobs
Okay.
aspects as well.
Okay.
But absolutely, accommodation, right? To support you as a worker.
Okay.
Absolutely, there's accommodation aspect to that. And we'll get into some of the jobs that are available
Okay.
to help as well, right? So great question, though.
I have a
Corey, I
question.
have a question. Whoops.
Oh, I have a question.
Just give me a sec. Oh. Sorry.
What's going to stop? Like I heard in what was it?
I don't know.
There was two people that showed up at the polls with intellectual disabilities, and they were told they weren't allowed to vote. What's
Nova Scotia.
what's going to stop that from happening again? That happened in Nova Scotia.
So great question. So one of the things that I would always follow up with is write your feedback and call Elections Canada, to if there's any concerns, right, around that, because every person, regardless of what kind of disability, should absolutely have the right to vote. And so it's really important that they know that, because they need to be able to, no one should ever be turned down from voting, especially those people, especially people intellectual disabilities or development disabilities. So absolutely great question. I would ask you to follow up with elections to talk more specific about that situation as well.
Yeah, because it happened here in Nova Scotia in the provincial election.
So
It was a municipal election, and two people went in with disabilities, said they weren't allowed to vote, so they left and then came back, and then came back with the support staff or something, and then they let them vote. But that person who wanted to vote, their staff had to go in with them, into the booth with them.
absolutely. So my question to you, so we're talking about the federal election right now,
Yeah.
but my thing would be is reach out to the clerk in that municipality who deals with municipal and express deep concerns with that, because no one should be denied the right to vote for anything like that. So I would encourage you to follow up with the clerk as well on that. So
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Alrighty, Patty, I think I seen you had a question there.
Yes, I had a question. For me being blind, and if I applied for to get a job in the election, would there be an intended there? I mean, like, how would that work for a blind person?
Great question, and I have a real no answer, but I'm going to ask Cynthia from Elections Canada if she can answer that briefly as well.
Hello. So you can absolutely apply for anyone who is blind. What we do ask people to do is to specify their any of their accommodation needs, so to make sure we can meet them as much as we can, or to the best of our ability. So there is an application form online, or there's also a paper version that you can fill when you apply, and there's the accessibility box in that form made for people to request any accommodation. So there are roles that might require to certain abilities, or some that may require people to be able to stand and to walk, and so there are different roles that can be filled by different people, and we will try to accommodate you to the best of our abilities. So it is absolutely possible.
Thanks so much, Cynthia. Again, accommodation is huge to supporting someone, right? So great question, Patty. So I'm going to continue on. Has anyone here ever worked at a provincial or federal or provincial election? Raise your hand if you've ever worked at a provincial or federal election. Okay. 3, see, yes. Okay. I know we're going to talk a little bit better, but just working elections is such a huge component to be able to try to help you build your confidence in the community as well. Just have to say that. So, okay. So, well, as you know, I have worked for Elections Canada. I've actually worked elections since I was 18 years old. That's right, 18 years old since I worked elections. Last year, Elections Canada asked me to talk about my experience so that other people can learn from me. We did a short video about this. One question they asked me was, what motivates you, Corey, to be an election worker? And also, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about working for Elections Canada for the first time? So we did so let's watch a little part of the video. Monica, do you want to start showing the video now? And
Okay. Ready? Try again.
how can I support and build a great team? I truly do believe in democracy, and I truly do believe we have a responsibility, especially for generations such as me, for generations that are going to be impacted, to engage. And part of me was, how can I help my community and make a difference? How can I support and build a great team? it's really important that we have more training on accessibility and supporting people with disabilities. It's really important that while we're having accessible training, that they're actually led by people with disabilities. I think people with intellectual and developmental disabilities or the invisible disabilities as well, really important for them to be involved and engaged. And finally, making sure that all materials are plain language. As a poll worker, they will tell you the plain language aspect will have a huge impact on them as well. So really having that training opportunity, because that training is vital, especially whether it's people working advance polls or election day. They need to have adequate training that's not rushed on supporting people with disabilities or accessibility. It's that they have the appropriate training that will guide them. I really encourage people to get involved and really work in election. And it would be really great to see more people with disabilities to really get involved in that aspect. People just have to remember that when you're working election, it's not it's we as a team. I will continue to put my name forward for elections. And in fact, I was called not so long ago to work the next election. So just in case, so there is one. So they're already on top of that. And I've agreed to do it continuing on. So. Thanks so much for sharing that, Monica, and certainly everything in that video I still stand by today, as it is extremely important to really get involved and engaged. Let's talk about who's eligible to work for Elections Canada in the federal election. First, you need to be a Canadian citizen and also be at the age of at least 16 years on election day. That's no mistake here. You don't have to be 18 to work in a federal election. You have to be 18 to vote in an election, but not work here. You also need to be impartial, and that's really important. This means being completely neutral and treating everyone equally and fairly, if no basis. You'll notice that today, Monica, if you could stop showing the screen for 2 seconds, and then I'll just show you. So you'll notice that I'm wearing pink today. And it's, as much as I love wearing pink, it's not a coincidence I'm wearing pink, because you cannot wear, when you're working elections, you cannot wear the political colors. So it's really important that when you work, like I couldn't wear red, blue, green, purple, orange, just to name some, green, because that ideally could be looked at that supporting another campaign. So you have to really wear, like Monica has black on today, and to be impartial as well. So just to give you an idea. When hired, you'll sign a solemn declaration to confirm that you are committed to being fair and impartial. A solemn declaration is a formal, legally binding statement that you sign. By signing, the worker agrees to treat everyone equally and fairly. While on duty, you are expected to not participate in any political activities while you're employed with Elections Canada. That could mean no rallies or letters to politicians while you're working for Elections Canada. Avoid working for any candidate or political party or attending any political events or meetings. Not wear items, like I mentioned today about the shirts, that show opposition of any party. And as we just went into that about the colors, these are some other ways the election staff show that they are being fair to every party and candidates.
Corey, I think
Yeah.
I saw a hand up.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Jonathan's hand is
Yep.
up there.
Thank you. Jonathan.
Well, this thing. I know that counts for the federal, but strange question in one way. First, does that count for provincial as well?
So great question. It absolutely does, right? Provincial and federal. I know certainly in Ontario here, a lot of the rules are about the same. Being impartial, being fairly treated, because you don't want to show that you endorse any candidate as well, especially when you're hired as an election worker, because then it could be perceived that you support that candidate when voters come. And some voters, you have to remember, that may not know who they're voting for yet, or may think, oh, I'm going to vote for this one because that one is right. So it's really trying to make sure you take all that out of it. So great question though. But certainly for
And
provincial.
also I sent you in your chat. Can you send me the thing that you were talking about earlier when you said here's the website or the thing to show for Elections Canada?
Yeah, and just looking here.
You talked about a website earlier to if you want to work for
apply.
that.
Yeah, and we're going to get right into that actually very shortly. So so hold tight and we will we'll definitely get right into that. But absolutely we'll show the website as well for everyone. Just to make it
Is there a
easy for
way?
everyone.
No, I mean, is there a way that you can send it to me?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can absolutely send that to you.
Thanks.
Not a problem. Great question though. Thank you. So now the other component that often people ask is they get excited because they're like, oh my goodness, I've never worked the election. But don't worry, there is training. And if you don't think that you have enough, know enough about elections or voting in Canada, Election Canada trains all poll workers before they start to work. No matter what your job is, you'll be given a training session, or you can read through materials and train at home. And I will just pull up quickly that, and I've had this for years there. What's in front of me is I actually have a deputy return officer poll clerk book they've had over the years, and that was given for training. The training time is paid and takes place either online or in person. The training schedule is usually on weekdays or and also nights or on the weekends as well. During your training session, depending on which position you've been hired for, you can expect to do hands-on practice using examples of common solutions. They'll provide worksheets and materials for you to use, and such as a booklet that I just showed. Receive a guidebook which includes all the information you'll need to do your job as well. Watch videos and read short explanations. Take quizzes to practice the learning. Elections Canada also offers accommodation for people with disabilities who request it, and that's what Cynthia just talked not so long ago about accommodation aspect to Patty's question. For example, when you apply, you can ask them for accommodation you'll need when you work. Applicants can share their needs in more detail after they are hired. They sometimes have budget to offer support, such as equipment or support person. Also, this is a short-term work, so it doesn't have to be a big commitment, and it's a huge way to get work experience as well. Employees in certain positions can request to work different shifts and have breaks when they need them. So, some of you have been asking about jobs. So what jobs are available? Now that we're going to list a few jobs that you might be interested in applying for. One job available at local officers is Community Relations Officer. They support workers who face barriers to registration and voting. For example, youth, Indigenous people, seniors, people with disabilities, and homeless.
Excuse
Yep.
me. There is like I guess kind of a line that's hiding the paying rate and the title, and there's a glitch box.
There's a line covering the title here.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then on the square on the side too, there is like a square also on the right
Okay.
side also. Thank you.
Is this better now, Akshay? Is that a
Yes.
bit better? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Um,
Hope that
Hello,
fixed it.
Monica.
Hi. Okay, sorry.
okay. No, community relations officer. And you do get paid to do these jobs. I know that was in the chat, so absolutely you get paid. So their job is to make voting as accessible as possible for people. This is the actual job that I actually have been hired to do when the next federal election is called. I've been hired as a community relations officer here as well. Some roles of the community relations officer include sharing information about accessible voting tools, help fix accessibility issues on polling days, and give feedback on accessibility concerns. This position is currently paid $23 an hour. Next, we have an information officer. And what they do is help people setting up and closing the polling station, greet in voters, and direct them around the room to the voting room or registration desk or voting screen where to go line up. Remind them to have their voter information card and ID ready. Assist voters who might need extra help. And this position pays $20.01 per hour. There's also the registration officer. The main tasks include set up the registration desk, materials, and posters. Explain the registration process and ID requirements. Check and accept voters' proof of identity and address. Registered new voters or correct information and fill in needed paperwork. They get paid the same as information officer, $20.01 an hour. There are more jobs that you can apply for, but this gives you an idea of the opportunities that are. So the main qualifications for working for Elections Canada are: be a Canadian citizen, be at least 16 years on polling day, have experience in dealing with the public, have experience in conflict resolutions, be tactful, and use good judgment. Be tactful means speaking carefully and fairly. Have experience in getting personal information from the general public or filling in paperwork or forms. Always be polite and courageous and be professional. Remember that just because it says you need experience, you are never working on your own. You're always working with someone, more than one person. There's always a colleague there to help you as well. So you can just ask questions. Let's try going through the application online together. Monica's going to put it on the screen. So Monica, if you don't mind just walking us through, first you'll go on to the website, elections.ca, then click on employments. Then find the job that you're interested in and click on more information. Then on the right, you'll see the buttons where you can see some of the training materials. And then finally, sorry, go ahead there.
Sorry, it's Cynthia. Are we supposed to see the screen?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to pull it up right
Yeah,
here.
And
Monica
then we
just-
need to redo it. Sorry about that.
That's okay, yeah.
And we'll walk through this here.
Okay, there we go.
So we have the English. You can choose English or French. And then you go to employment. You're going to click on that. And
Okay.
you have different options. These are some of the jobs that Corey was just talking about. And right now we're going to look at poll workers. Those are some of the jobs that we were discussing here. And so you click on more information and to apply. Hopefully everybody can see this on screen. But there's options there. You can read more about the job.
Oh, we can't see.
You can't see it?
No, it's very small.
Okay. Were other people able to see it? It's just small. Okay, I'm gonna go back and maybe you might have to make it bigger on your own screen.
Pretty small.
Okay.
We can see it, but it's pretty small.
Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger here. Okay. So you'll see that there is a little button called Manuals and Videos. And you can look and read more about some of the training that they have. You can read poll worker manuals and you can watch training videos even before you get hired. So you can watch those videos if you want to feel more comfortable with it. But if you want to apply for a poll worker job, you click on Apply Now. And so it brings you to an online application process. And we'll talk about other ways that you can apply in just a few moments, but I'm just going to show you this here. So what you do is you tell them where you are. They're asking for your existing electoral district. That means they want to know the place where you live and your voting district. So you're going to type in your postal code and it'll search it for you. And then you go through. Okay, looks like I have to fill it in. Okay. The next form, it's telling me that I live in Winnipeg Center, which is true. That's my voting district. It says there are no elections at this time, but we are collecting applications for an upcoming event. So like Corey said, it's not too early now to start applying. And so then it asks you a few different questions. And all you do is you go through and you click them. It wants to confirm, are you at least 16? And you click yes, if you are. Are you a Canadian citizen? You click yes. And you click, and it wants to know, it asks you, I have read and understood the poll worker requirements. And I'm not going to open that up right now, but if you want to read it, you can click that and it will tell you more about the requirements. Then it asks a few other questions. It wants to know, are you bilingual? No, I'm not bilingual, actually. And then it asks me, what's my preferred language of correspondence? That means, how do I want them to communicate me? If they get in touch, do I want my emails in English or French? And I would like them in English. And I just want to say, even though they're saying if you're bilingual, English and French, and it says required, that doesn't mean it's required for the job. It just means they want you to answer the question. So you have to tell them. Next, do you speak any other languages? I don't really speak other languages, so I'm going to leave that open. I don't have to write anything. Next, I go through, and I'm not going to fill this in now, but you would go through and put in your name, first and last name, your address, all that information, and then you're going to click and tell them what positions you're interested in. You could click 1, you could click 2, you could click all of them if you're interested. And there's different jobs for different times of the election. So polling day is like a day of the day when the election happens, and that's working for 1 day. So you can click that if that's what you're interested in. And they also have jobs for advance polling days, which is 4 days of work. And that happens usually about 2 weeks or a week or so before the election to give people more time to go vote. So that's called advance polling. And if you want to do that, then you also click those. And it's possible that you might want to do for both of those. So that's okay too. You could do it for polling day and for advance polling. It's really up to you. Next, you're going to describe in a few words any important experience that you have. Pertinent means, does it relate to the job? Is there something you've done before? And you don't have to write a lot. You just have to, you could say a few words. You could say, yes, I worked here. Or yes, I worked here and I did this. Give a little information. And then this is the part about accessibility. If you have any accessibility needs, you could say yes, or you could say no. That's up to you. If you say yes, then they would like to know, how can we accommodate your needs? You could write whatever your accommodation needs are. And if people might have different accommodation needs, and you don't have to go into all the details, but you can just give them your ideas. For example, you could say, I would like all information in plain language. That might be an accommodation need that you want. And if you have something different, then you say that. And the last thing is, for recruitment purposes, they are just asking if you authorize Elections Canada to provide your name and your experience to the local administration that's hiring, and also Statistics Canada. And you can say yes or no, it's up to you, but you just have to answer the question. And then they want to know, how did you hear about our employment opportunities? So you would just tell them where you heard about it. And the last part is an ability question, and this is also required. So you would answer the question, do you have experience with high stress situations? For example, tight deadlines, ambiguity, which means things that are not exactly clear, or challenging individuals. You would select yes or no. How many Canadian electoral events have you previously participated in as an election worker? So they want to know, have you done election work before? I would say no, 0. The last part, it's asking to do some questions online. So if I was doing this, I would get my calculator out, or I would find another way to figure this out, or write it on paper, but it's asking you some questions. And so it says candidate A received a total of 233 votes. So that's candidate A. Candidate B received a total of 322 votes. I would type that in there. And then it says candidate C received a total of 232 votes. So then they want to know, what is the total on that? And you would type that total in. And the last question is kind of a math question here. You can get a calculator if you want. You can do it on paper or in your head. And you answer the question, what is the answer to 19 plus 17? And then you type it in there. Once you've answered all the questions, you hit submit. You don't have to attach your resume. That's not needed at this point. They just want to get people who are interested in the job. And if they want your resume or they want more information, then they would get in touch with you. Cynthia, is there anything else that you want to tell us about this application form online? Is there anything we've missed here? Or?
I think you've done a really nice walkthrough. Thanks for that, Monica. I don't think there's anything missing. The only thing I would like to mention is that there's also a paper form available. So if you don't feel like completing it online, or if you don't have a computer, you can call Elections Canada and they will get that for you. And they might even offer to do it on the phone with you. So you might be asked the same questions and then you can just say them out loud. So there are different ways we can accommodate you if this way of applying doesn't work for you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it was very good. Thanks, Monica.
Back to you, Corey.
Thanks so much. And again, applying online and calling or whatever tool that you're able to is such an easy process. And certainly I would encourage anyone who's never worked elections or who has done in the past to continue to put your name forward because they really do need people experienced as well, people with disabilities to apply as well. So really encourage you all to do that. So we're going to have a Q&A now of Cynthia. And what questions do you have about working elections? What is your concerns? And you know, what is stopping you from applying? for working as well. So maybe we could take that off screen, Monica, and we'll just open up to anyone to have a dialogue with Cynthia as well.
I
'Cause
I do have a question.
okay, yep. Sector, go ahead there.
So my name is Akshay. Like currently I'm working with CLBC. I'm on their board, and like my question is, looking at my abilities, I can't write much. I can type. My typing is low, but I'm good at like talking to people, customer service or advocacy work. So which position will be good? Which position should I apply for, or you know? So that's what I'm, and
Mhm.
because some of the positions you might need like writing and stuff. So how should I go forward with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there are different roles available at the polls. We don't want to tell you what you might be best at doing. You know your skills better than us. So what I would encourage you to do is to look at what's available online at the different jobs with
Mm,
the description, and you may be in a better position to decide which one would work for you. But I can see that there would be a good fit for more than one option. You don't need to be writing much. Some position might require it more than others, but a lot of the position won't necessarily ask you to have to write,
okay.
or they might you might need to type. But no one cares if you write very fast or slowly, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
And if I may, Cynthia, the last poll I was a supervisor, and one of the biggest thing is how we accommodate uh with someone who does need accommodation, right? Just remember that you're not doing this alone, right? It's really important that
Mm,
you will have team members as well. So when you come in, when I first started, God, it feels like it's been forever. When I was 18, my first instinct is, oh my goodness, how am I, my speaking and all that. So I actually started, just my personal opinion, I started off as an information officer just to try to know what I was comfortable with and then be able to learn from other people working that day as well. So but certainly all kinds of positions. Christina has a question.
Hello, thank you for this very informative webinar or presentation. So just two quick questions. I know that the day of election day can be quite long, and you said earlier that that people can request different shifts. Is it possible or feasible to try to maybe ask to not work like a 13-hour day on that day if that's not a possibility? Or is that kind of an expectation, since that is a big part of the responsibility? Is what do you think about that?
So people are now allowed to ask to work shifts during the election. This means that you won't
Oh, Cynthia's freezing a little bit.
know for that. Oh,
So
I
sorry,
think Mike, can you still hear me?
we can hear you now.
Okay, so you missed me for a while, I suppose.
We did.
Okay, I'll start again. But so basically, if you are interested in working shorter hours, you can request it when you apply. So it's something you can add in the accessibility box when you apply, so that they know that they would be looking for jobs that don't require you to work for the full 12 or 14-hour shift, because some jobs require people to stay until the polls will close and until all the ballots are counted. So that's when the hours are longer, because no one can leave the polls after they're closed for the counting. So this may take an hour, but it may also take 3 hours. So if it's not something that you think you can do, it's worth mentioning when you apply.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, just a quick question. So one more. So you put the postal code in, and so essentially you can expect that the place that you're working at is going to be within walking or busing distance from where you live. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so it's going to be located in your electoral district where you are assigned to vote. So it should be close enough. As if you're in a city that provides transit, then you should be able to get there by bus. You may also work outside your voting district if you request it, or if they might ask you to do so if they don't have enough poll workers for neighbor district. That could be an option. So you're not, it is not mandatory to work in your voting district, but it's, yeah, there is flexibility there. If you want to work, I don't know, near your school or your job, your other job, for example, that could also be an option.
Okay. Sorry, just one final question. Is it possible for an accommodation to be having like a support staff with you, just to make sure that you're kind of doing what you're supposed to, and if you have questions or needing a little bit of extra support, having someone there? Obviously, they wouldn't be getting paid for that, but is that a reasonable accommodation request?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we've seen this in the past.
Okay. Would that person have to do anything in terms of like, I don't know, just because they're around that for the day, do they have to register? Or I don't know how that would work, but oh, I think you cut out.
Declaration to confirm that means confidential, for example, or that they won't interrupt the services or the electoral process. But in terms of needing to apply, for example, that wouldn't be the case. They would really be there as a support to the person applying. So there wouldn't be a separate process just for them.
Okay, thank you so much.
No
Can
problem.
I ask a question?
Sorry, Patty, just before you ask, I just want to say, Cynthia, you cut out for a little while, your mic. And so the first part of what you said, we kind of missed, but I think you mentioned that a support person would have to take a solemn declaration. Is that what you were saying?
So that could be an option, but Corey probably know the rules better than I, because I've never worked at the polls. But yeah, I suspect that they would require that would be the requirement to make sure that they respect the process and that they don't interfere with it, so they don't try to. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, and I would fully support that. I think decoration, and that is just to protect the electors as well, right? Because when they do see someone coming in there, it's not turn around saying that this person has support, because I mean that's no one's business aspect, but it's making sure that the decoration is signed as well. So no, absolutely. In my experience, I've seen it, especially in rural areas and stuff like that. Absolutely. Patty had a question.
Yes, my question is as a blind person, how would I work there? Like, I mean, what would I get benefit, or what could I do to work at the election?
That's a really good question. As I said earlier, we don't want to tell people what job might be the best fit for them. What I would encourage you to do is look at the job descriptions. I don't know if Corey, you know from just experience working at the polls, what kind of jobs you can think of that might be a good fit, but what I know is that their requirements are different for most jobs, and there are some jobs that require to be at a computer more. So it might be a matter of maybe not working directly with the voters, but to make sure that the process, like all the polling stations, are set up appropriately through working on a device, for example. So I mean, there are a lot of a big difference between the roles. That's what I could say. So I'm sure there's a few that could be of interest. But I'm not sure if Corey, you have more. I not to put you on the spot, not at all, but just from your experience, if you can think of like a specific role, for example, or
Yeah, whether it's information officer, whether it's even a poll clerk as well, being at the desk as well, right? Because there is,
Mhm.
you have to also remember there's also different equipment as well that we can elections can utilize as well, right? So just in my experience of seeing that even at the desk, and each person, it'll depend on what kind of accommodation they need for a position. And I would just encourage everyone to have that conversation when they call you, and when you're applying for the job aspect as well, because you know yourself what kind of job and aspects that you'll be able to do, and they'll be able to tell you what kind of things that they're able to meet as well. So absolutely. We don't certainly want anyone to feel like because you have one disability that they won't accommodate. Elections, in my experience, will absolutely do everything in their power to make sure that they meet all the accommodations as best as possible.
Mhm.
I do have a question, one more. It was just like for information officer, if I can apply, I apply. Do I write in accessibility that I can't write that much, or should I leave that out? Like, what should I like? Should I let them know right away, or should I wait until they call me? Or
It depends how much you think that might be affecting your ability to do the work. But honestly, I don't see this as something that would need to be mentioned. I think what you might want to put in the requirement or the accommodation is something that you would need to help you do your work. So if you need a support person, or if you need to be able to stand, so a desk that can help you work while
okay,
standing, not
okay,
sitting, or a screen reader, or so it's more about like what you usually need or use in your work, or
okay,
in
got
past
it,
experience. I
got
hope
it.
that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
No
Before we go
problem.
to Louise, I do want to answer a question from Kimberly about in the chat about using the walker for registration information officer. I just want to be perfectly clear that the poll clerk, deputy return officers, they're all sit down jobs, right? So I want to make sure that people know that you're not standing for 13 hours in some of those positions, right? Even if it's an information officer, you could pull up a chair and greet people as they come in, right? So I don't want people to think that that you have to be standing for the entire time. So absolutely, walker, cane, etc. Absolutely, would meet that. And we've had that in the past where someone has sat at the front door and greeted people when they've come in as well. But don't want people to feel like that just because it's information officer, that's all you can do. No, there is other jobs that actually you very well may be able to do. That's not try to sell our self-worth, right? That's try to really, it's about empowering people to take on the risk as well. Louise has a question.
Oui, vous savez que Donald Trump, il veut faire un État avec le Canada. Il veut s'emparer du Canada. Puis s'il réussit, qu'est-ce qui va arriver pour Élections Canada?
Est-ce que je peux parler en français? Is the interpreter
Oui.
able to interpret in both languages?
Yes.
Yes, OK, parfait. Donc, évidemment, ça, c'est des suppositions, donc on ne peut pas se prononcer sur le sujet. Nous, dans le fond, Élections Canada, on est indépendant du gouvernement. Puis notre rôle, vraiment, c'est de s'assurer que les élections sont possibles, de s'assurer que les électeurs puissent voter. Puis on relève directement du Parlement. Donc, notre rôle est complètement neutre. Puis on ne dépend pas du gouvernement qui est en place pour prendre des décisions ou pour faire notre travail. Donc, on n'est pas
OK.
affilié à aucun parti politique.
Ben, merci.
Ça me fait plaisir.
Thank you so much, Louise, for that question. Regardless of what government is in power, that does not impact on working election day. Elections will still continue to be there regardless of what government is in power. So with this, first of all, I want to thank Cynthia from Elections Canada for coming today and for doing those questions as well. We want to remind everyone that that in our election systems, there are things in place to protect the voting process and also keep it safe. It's really important that it's protected and that it's also transparent as well. That nothing is shady or hidden. Election staff are also a big part of that, to making sure that we secure that. Elections security is about making sure that it is fair, that it's not about physical security, like having a security guard at the door. That's not what that means. This is what election security do. We always check in for voter ID. We use paper ballots for making our votes. Another safety measure is keeping the votes secret. Voting is designed to be extremely confidential and protecting the voters' privacy. When you work for Elections Canada, you are helping to make federal elections fair. You're an important part of election security. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that you have found that this job is very helpful. Join us on our webinar on March 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Voting in federal election, this will be done in French and English as well. Really want to thank Cynthia again for coming, and also thank Frank, translator as well, for part of today, and Monica and Cameron as well. Working elections will absolutely change your life for the better. It will give you the confidence, and it will help you be able to connect to the community. If I can say one thing is, please, 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 please apply for a job today. It would be really great to see more people of intellectual and developmental disabilities apply for a job. By working elections, you're only making elections stronger across from coast to coast to coast. And I really hope that today's information is very helpful. Again, it's been a privilege to be able to help facilitate this afternoon. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out. But democracy is stronger when people who work elections also make it stronger as well. So thank you, everyone.